Welcome back to another Finance Friday. I'm Jerry Fetta, CEO of Philanthro Wealth. If you didn't see, I merged my company, Wealth Dynamics, about a week ago with a great company we've been working with for many years called Philanthro Investors. And so now the brand of this is called Philanthro Wealth, right? So I'm going to be teaching Finance Friday just like we always do under the new brand as the CEO of the new company. And really what Philanthro Wealth is about is it's about creating a global community of wealthy philanthro investors who create wealth in a way that restores life essentials and also promotes human welfare, right? I think we've had enough of the, getting rich for the sake of being rich and the Mr. Moneybags and the Scrooge McDucks and all of this stuff, right? We have this whole stigma about wealthy people. But here's the thing. What if we became them and became helpful? Right? Resources are just resources. So you can't blame money for the reason we don't like people's choices. It's just who that person is. Right? So one of the things that this rests upon is the ability to think for ourselves financially. I want you to think of one wealthy philanthropist that you know or know of that can't think for themselves financially. It's not a thing, right? And if it is, they're not that wealthy or they don't stay that wealthy for that long. Right? And let's keep in mind the definition of wealth as well. Wealth means abundance and prosperity in all areas of life. Right? And you need the money to financially fund that. So the life essentials around us on this planet, that's part of all of our areas of our life. Okay, imagine a world without good food. Imagine a world where the water was impure. Right? Imagine, and I want to read some statistics off for you tonight, right, on this topic, because it really is an important thing for us to understand about, okay, why is it that we're doing this philanthro wealth thing? What is the purpose of it? Right? So I want to share some of that with you tonight. So again, if you're tuning in for the first time, the purpose of Finance Friday really is to increase your financial understanding. Right? And I want to take it with Philanthro Wealth. I want to take it a step beyond just your financial understanding. I want to increase your awareness level for what's happening on this planet and how we can help. Right? Because it's a different flow. It's a different flow. It's a different energy to be like, I want wealth for myself versus I want wealth because I've seen what's happening and I know that it's selfish not to help. I know that I can be more. I know I can do good. And that's why I want wealth. Right? So I'm going to read some stats off to you really quick. Did you know every day 6,000 children die of water-related diseases? Okay, I'm sitting here with a bottle of water like it's like nothing. Like I have a whole stack of them out there. I don't think about it. But every day 6,000 children, this is every day, DAY, 6,000 children die of water-related diseases. More people die from unsafe water than war. Right? Who here has ever seen war protesters? People that are like, anti-war, this, that. And I agree, I don't like war. Where have you ever seen like water protesting? Like, why don't people have clean water? Why aren't we doing something about that? Right? But we'll get super into two different countries that are completely disrelated to us are attacking each other and ignore the fact that more people die from unsafe water than war. Okay, these are just the water stats, by the way. Globally, 80% of wastewater is discharged and untreated, meaning we just dump it. We dump it in the streams. We dump it in the water. When I lived in Florida, one of the saddest things that I ever saw was red tide. Red tide means that there's this red algae that comes in from the creeks and the rivers into the ocean, and it kills the sea life. So you go to St. Petersburg Beach during red tide and you see dead dolphins. You see dead crabs. You see dead stingrays. You see all sorts of stuff just washed up on the beach that dies from the red tide. The red tide is because people dump their wastewater in the rivers. The farms, they dump their fertilizer in there. It goes into the ocean and it creates red tide and it kills the sea life. Guys, I love dolphins. So seeing a dead dolphin is like something that for me, I'm like, that's not okay. I want to do something about that. We're not even talking about people yet. We're talking about animals and dolphins, right? The US only recycles 1% of all water. 1%, 99% of water doesn't get recycled. And the current water infrastructure in the country is crumbling. Philanthro Wealth is about investing in a way to change something like that. Okay. And I want to share some more statistics with you guys. We're going to be doing a lot of stats tonight. Let's talk about health. Right? So Current healthcare systems prioritize and incentivize treatment over prediction, detection, and prevention. Okay. We have over $2.3 million or $2.375 million deaths, not dollar, 2.375 million. I'm so used to saying dollars, no dollars, just million deaths per year because of health-related chronic illnesses could be prevented. I'm going to say that again, 84% of chronic illnesses can be prevented. Not treated, like prevented, like you don't have to have them. Okay. We have 366 million current U.S. cases of people who have chronically illness that could be treated. The cost per year of total healthcare in this country is $1.3 trillion. $1.3 trillion. Okay, that's on the health side of things. Let's talk about housing. Right. So on the housing side of things, and you guys are familiar with Equity and Help. We have the average rent right now is becoming, like exaggeratingly high. If you've noticed in recent years, rent has gone up, right? Over 50% of Americans don't qualify for home ownership because of their credit, because of their background. They're not going to have a house. They're spending, $1,100, $1,200, $1,300 a month minimum on rent. And so we have a program where we can help with that. We can provide roofs over heads, real home ownership, stability for families. Okay, that's called philanthro investing. Okay, philanthro investing is when you invest and you engage not only economically, but also emotionally. You're helping others. You care for them. You see, okay, they're in a bad situation, or the planet's in a bad situation, or the water is in a bad situation, or the healthcare situation isn't good. And as an investor, I can do something about it. Right? Let's talk about waste. Right? I want to talk about waste and share some statistics there. 100,000 marine animals die from plastic every 12 months. Just plastic. Okay, 88% of the ocean's surface is polluted by plastic waste. Guys, that's a huge number. 88% of the ocean's surface is polluted by plastic waste. I want to repeat that again, 88%. That's ridiculous. Okay, we have 5.25 trillion pieces of plastic in our oceans right now. 168,125 tons per square kilometer of plastic in our oceans. 33% of all fish caught contain plastic. A third of all fish caught contain plastic. Right? These are some of the problems that are happening on our planet. And so one of the reasons why I came in and I merged with Philanthro Investors and we created this Philanthro Wealth brand is it goes beyond just me. It goes beyond just my family. It goes beyond just the ones I care about. It's like, okay, great. This phrase, I don't need all that. Right? It's not about what you need. What if you could produce more than you needed and you could use the surplus to help, to do something, to give a damn? Right? That's what Philanthro Wealth is. One of my mentors, Andrew Carnegie, a guy I study a lot, right? He wrote this book called The Gospel of Wealth. And when you read The Gospel of Wealth, he talks about how the surplus wealth that we generate is literally a moral and ethical obligation and responsibility to be stewarded as a sacred trust towards the betterment of society, the betterment of this planet. Right? So he's literally, guys, America's first billionaire and the richest man in American history. And his philosophy was, you get wealthy so that you can, moderately take care of yourself and your family and have the things you want. Yeah, but the surplus, you use that to make the world a better place. And here's the thing that gets me is we have these conversations and I hear people talk about legacy. Legacy, legacy, legacy. I want to leave money to my kids. I want to leave money to my grandkids. I promise you the money won't still be there. There's not a single currency in the world that's lasted that long. And even if it was, it's going to be more of a curse to them than a gift if you don't teach them how to use it right. But I want to ask you, what's more important? Leaving behind money or leaving behind a better world? Right? Money in a world that sucks isn't going to help. Leaving them in a better world where we still have drinkable water. We still have fish in the ocean. We still can get roofs over our heads. The air is still breathable. Like, these are the things that matter. Okay, you can go back to, Dr. Seuss, The Lorax. The Lorax, right? And I bring that up because it was one of my favorite movies as a kid, but it's a very, very good example of, okay, what happens if we don't take care of what's here and around us? right? And it doesn't need to be nonprofit and it doesn't need to be volunteering and donating. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that stuff, but what if you could invest in a way that does that? Where you can start to improve life essentials. Water is a life essential. Clean air is a life essential. There's actually 10 life essentials. I'm going to read them off to you, okay? So here are the life essentials: water, health, housing, environment, food, wellness, energy, structure, animals, art, literacy. Those are all of the life essentials. So what if we invested in a way that we improved the air, we improved the food, we improved wellness, we improved energy, right? Energy meaning like the way we create energy on this planet, electricity, solar, these types of things, right? That's versions of energy. Structure, right? Animals, art, literacy, like these are all things that are important. And then we've also got, the water, the health, the housing, the environment, some of the other ones we talked about. That's what Philanthro Wealth is about. Right. So I want you to think about that, like as we're doing more and more content with Philanthro Wealth, what we're building is what I call the Philanthro world. Okay, the Philanthro world is this: it's a global network of wealthy philanthropists who are creating wealth in a way that restores the life essentials and promotes human welfare. Right. And it means that we're not investing just for raw capitalism and money on money. Like this idea of, like, for example, this is one of the reasons I don't own rental real estate. I don't really think it's helping anyone. I'm not interested in having this little peon live in his house and pay my mortgage for me. I don't like that story. When I hear influencers and gurus talk about, oh, this guy lives there and he pays my mortgage. I saw, a very popular influencer the other day, and he's like, I won't buy a Rolls Royce, but I'll buy real estate and make my tenants pay for my Rolls Royce. And I'm like, I would hate, like, if I was the tenant, I would hate that guy. Could you imagine that? You're throwing rent away every month so that guy can have a Rolls Royce. I wouldn't want that to happen to me. So why would I want to do it to others? And one of the problems with finances is there are good ways to go about it that are helpful, and then there are ways that are like downright wrong. They're suppressive. They prey on others. They're predatory. And what can happen is we learn about these various ways of building wealth, and we learn about the stuff that's been happening to us, the stuff we didn't like, what the banks are doing to us, and what Wall Street is doing to us, and what the financial institutions are doing to us, and the tax agencies, and this and that. And we learn all about it, and then we go and do it to other people. Right? Let's keep a really basic rule in. It's called the golden rule. Don't do stuff to you wouldn't want them to do to you. So if you don't like the fact that you're paying interest to a bank and you're not getting anything in return, why would you go do that to someone else? Take and not give them anything. See, I don't mind paying interest to a bank, but it's the fact that it wasn't their money. I'm not actually getting anything. They're greedy. They're risking other people's life savings. I don't support that system. Right? So I'm not going to be like, well, let me figure out how to go do that to someone else. Right? I don't like what Wall Street does. I don't like that I buy an invisible share of nothing and then they commit fraud with it over and over and over in a legal sense, and they just spend enough money on lobbyists that it's okay to do. I don't like that. So I'm not going to do that to other people. So I need to take a different path with my wealth. That's what Philanthro Wealth is about. Okay, so what I want to do with you really quick tonight, I want to share with you our next law of wealth in our installment that we've been doing on the Blueprint to Financial Freedom, right? So the Blueprint to Financial Freedom, it's a book that I wrote a couple years back, right? And this is a step-by-step guide to achieving passive income that exceeds your generosity, expenses, taxes, and savings. And this is something that, in my old company, Wealth Dynamics, we literally coach people on this. And we're going to continue doing that with Philanthro Wealth. So the blueprint, not going to change, not going anywhere, right? But part of what's in there is the ability to think for ourselves financially. And one of the new elements we need to think about is, what is the effect we're creating on the life essentials and on human welfare in the way that we behave with our finances, or the way we choose not to behave with our finances? That's a new level of awareness. And that's not something that I was taught initially. You have to understand, I went from the traditional retirement investing, the mutual funds and the 401ks, to then the real estate stuff. And then getting into, becoming my own bank. And it started in layers and thresholds. And it wasn't until I started to become more financially mature that I realized, when you become financially independent, where you don't have to trade time for money anymore, money no longer becomes the game. It no longer is the necessity. It's like I could literally do nothing, and next month I'm going to have more in my net worth than I did last month. Right? When you get to that point in time and money is no longer the motivation, I experienced a loss personally. Right? Kind of like, what is life about? And it's funny because this is the pinnacle. It's the thing we go for. We're like, yeah, I want to get there. I'm telling you, when I got there, I was like almost depressed. Okay, I'm not telling you you don't get there, and it's not the old adage of, oh, see, money can't buy happiness. No, 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 no. It's because I achieved my goal. I won the game, and I didn't know what the next goal was. You know what I mean? I didn't think about what the next game would now be. Because initially the game is, earn, save, invest, earn, save, invest, earn, save, invest, and you're pursuing that. And you don't really think about the next game because it's such a big target. To be financially independent, most of us need to have a $2 million net worth or higher, not including our primary resident. Right? That puts you in the top 10% of net worth in the country. So we need to make it into the top 10%. That's a big target. You don't ever think you're really going to get there. You keep pushing and following the blueprint. You finally get there. And if you haven't thought about, I no longer have to do what I do for money. So then why do I do what I do? Right? Fun could be a reason, right? But everything is fun until it's not. We've all gotten bored with things we loved before. I love the gym. I haven't been in the weight room in like 2 months. I got bored with it. I'm doing running and a lot of, more circuit training right now, more sports style training because that's more fun for me right now. So I can't live on fun, right? And it can't just be personal gain. It can't just be what I'm going to have and get. So it starts to become into like, what are the things that I really care about? And what are the things that it's like, if I don't do something about that, nobody is. If I can, I should, right? It's a sense of duty. And that's more aligned with purpose. That's the reason why I do the things I do. So when you become financially independent, you start to realize what Andrew Carnegie said. And I had to reread his book, Gospel of Wealth. I had to reread it again. And it was like, you're using this as a sacred trust, your surplus wealth, to make the world a better place. And I thought that was very fitting because he calls it literally word for word, a sacred trust, right? What do we call our account? I didn't even put this together on purpose, the sacred account, right? You have a sacred mission as a financially independent person. You have a sacred mission of not just caring for you and yours, but making the world a better place with your wealth, restoring life essentials, promoting human welfare. Okay, and I'm going to tell you a quick story real quick before I dive into our law of wealth tonight. When I was a financial advisor, I remember sitting down and we would sell, mutual fund portfolios and retirement portfolios strictly based on returns. Right, returns and risk tolerance. That was it. What's your risk tolerance? What are the returns you're looking for? Here's mutual fund B, and that's going to be the thing we're going to offer you. Okay, now I've talked about this before, and I'm going to draw this out on the whiteboard. With a mutual fund, you have a basket of stocks and bonds. Okay, so inside your retirement account, you might have 4 or 5 different mutual funds. Each of these is an MF, which if you're investing in them, it makes you an MF, doesn't it? I'm just kidding with you, but not really. So each of these is an MF, and so that's a mutual fund. Each of these is a basket of stocks and bonds, right? Inside of this, you might have 100 or 50 different companies, stocks, bonds, etc., inside of each of these baskets. So if you have 4 or 5 mutual funds, you could have 200, 500 or more different holdings of companies that you're in from a stock or bond standpoint. And I remember one time I was looking at this and there was a couple I sat down with, and I was in my early 20s, right? So I was still pretty new. I sat down and they were like, we really care about what we're supporting with our money. And I wasn't taught that. I was taught you have a certain number you need for retirement, and my job is to show you how you're going to get that number. And so they're like, can we see the actual companies that we're in? And I was like, okay, cool. I've never had someone ask this before, but fine, let's do it. And I remember going through it with them, and there were things in there that when I showed it to them, they no longer wanted to invest in those mutual funds. Companies that create, warheads and missiles, that support bombing other countries. companies that sell pharmaceutical drugs, right? I'm not big on pharmaceuticals, psychiatric drugs, right? Things like that, where they were looking at this and they're like, I would never donate money to this group. I would never flow them my power and support. So why would I invest in them? And I remember like that was the first time I ever thought about that, because I looked at it then and I was like, I wouldn't either. I don't like the idea of let's go bomb other countries. So why would I invest money in something that gives money to those guys so they can keep doing it? I don't like GMO food. So why would I invest money in a fund that supports GMO food? I don't believe in pharmaceuticals and psychiatric drugs. I think they're mind altering, untested, and dangerous. I think they really mess people up. So why would I invest money in a group that's supporting that and filling people full of that in their bodies? Right? Even down to the level of like, we were talking about pollution, all of the plastic that's in the ocean. If you knew a company was polluting the ocean and contributing to the fact that a third of all fish have plastic in them, would you give money to that company? Let me ask this a different way. Would you even support them to stay in business? Like if you could stop them from being in business, would you? Right? And I'm not going to get into who's president. I'm going to get into this instead. We're not going to name any names. I think both sides are crazy, right? But we argue and bicker about who's going to be the head honcho and the face of everything for 4 years. And we completely get, just worked up and emotional, and we share all this stuff on social media. We make the other people wrong, and we argue, and we this and we that. And we completely overlook the fact that there are companies that have been in business for decades that are doing worse stuff than either presidential candidate will ever do. And sometimes we buy stuff from them. Sometimes we invest in their stock. That's way worse. And that's a lot longer than 4 years. And a lot of those guys are the ones lobbying for who's going to run a country. So we need to look at if we really want to create change, that's where we should put our attention. And what if you could change the world and make a positive effect and make money while doing it? See, Andrew Carnegie, he was in the 1800s. I love his philosophy of your surplus wealth should be administered as a sacred trust for the benefit of society. He did a lot of charitable giving, right? But he had to become a billionaire first. He built up to a billionaire status. Then he started distributing his wealth. And it's the model of retirement of like, okay, I'm going to build up a nest egg and spend my time living off of it, rather than what we're doing at PhilanthroWealth, which is the same thing I teach with passive income. Don't defer it, do it now. So if you can invest in ventures that make money for you and help those causes, you don't need to put it off until you're a billionaire. You don't need to wait and build up the nest egg of giving, which is no different than building up the nest egg of retiring. It's not about that. It's about building wealth now. And wealth means abundance and prosperity in all areas of life, which would include all of the things I've mentioned here so far, wouldn't it? Okay, so let's dive into today's law of wealth. I know we're almost 30 minutes into this. I'm going to be quick on this one. Okay, so we went over the other week, the concept of understanding things before we do them. And I think what I just shared today could fit into that. Understand what you're supporting before you invest in something, right? Understand that first. That could definitely fit into that. That's what we covered last week, right? Now, the other thing that we went over is that true financial training that is truly understood leads to truly positive results. Okay, so I'm going to put this one on the whiteboard. This is a law of wealth. And I want to dive into this one this evening because I think it's really important, because you can't become a wealthy investor, a wealthy philanthropist if you don't know this, right? So true financial training that is truly understood leads to truly positive results. Now, again, a natural law typically is basic. Doesn't need to be super complex. Like I talked about before, the more complex somebody makes something, typically for me, that means they're less intelligent. You've got to make it so complicated. If you can't make it really simple, I don't think that reflects IQ. I think someone with really high IQ is someone that can take something complex, make it really simple. They don't need to make it impossible to understand. You either don't know it or you're trying to keep it complex so other people can't understand it, so you have power over the fact that they don't understand. I don't like either of those. So let's break this down. True financial training. Okay. I want to hit a difference between training and education. Okay, we all went through school and we got educated, right? So that's like one level of knowledge, educating someone on something. I can tell my son, hey, make sure you look both ways before you cross the street. I'm educating him. Okay, and I tell him, he may or may not listen. Okay, show of hands if you've ever been educated on something and then you didn't listen or you forgot, right? I've had that. Okay, it happens. So training is different than education. When you send a Navy SEAL through camp, they don't call it Navy SEAL education, they call it training. What is the difference between training? If I educate my son on look both ways before you cross the street, that's different than training him to look both ways before he crosses the street. Training him means I have him practice it. I do it with him. I watch him. I have him watch me do it. And we go on and on and on and on and on and on until it's second nature and it's just part of his training. My little dog, Kiona, she has a ton of tricks now. Like we do a lot of training with her and we do it with treats and all this fun stuff. She's very cute. It's different than educating her and saying, Kiona, you shouldn't jump on people. Versus when she doesn't jump, giving her a treat. She learns, oh, that's a good thing not to jump. Whenever I don't jump, I get a treat. I know that now. I'm going to follow it. My point here is we don't get real financial training. I want you to think about when is the last time, other than Wealth Dynamics, other than PhilanthroWealth, when is the last time someone truly spent the time to train you financially? Not educate you and just say, here's how it works and you should remember that, but actually do it with you and watch you do it and coach you through it and get it to the point where for you it becomes second nature. That's financial training. So true financial training, if you have that and it's truly understood, okay, what does it mean to understand something? Okay, it's not just like I heard it once. It's not just I recognize the speech pattern of those words. Understanding something means it's part of you. It's got a deepness inside of you. When you understand your spouse, for example, you're not like, oh, that's my spouse. It's like, no, I actually feel them. When you understand someone else's viewpoint, you see it the way they see it. You're not just like, oh, I know what they said. No, I can actually see what they're seeing. I can see their reality. Understanding is very different than just, oh, I heard something or I watched something. So you have to get to a point of understanding where it becomes part of you, right? The real wealthy people on this planet, you could rob them blind, you could drop them in the middle of nowhere, and they would still get there again. Why? Because they understand it. It's part of them. No one needs to teach them what to do. They've already done it before. Why? Because they had real life training. Real life training becomes real understanding. It becomes part of you. Right? Then when you have those things, the true financial training that's truly understood, it leads to truly positive results. Okay, what are truly positive results? They're results where you look at them and you're like, yeah, this is good. I have zero doubt. I have zero consideration. I'm heading in the right direction. I can see it. I can feel it. I can touch it. The results are there. Okay, so what would that mean? It would mean that the inverse of this is also true. If you're not getting truly positive results with your finances right now, then there's something about finances that you don't truly understand. It's not part of you, which means you lack financial training. That's it. Guys, that is a natural law of wealth. And I'm going to share with you one of the parts of financial training is being a philanthropist. Right? Being a philanthro investor, being someone who puts money into these ventures as an investment and engages emotionally and gets a financial return as well. Understanding that that's part of having wealth is part of financial training. Now, if I'm not doing it, it's not part of me. I'm not getting the results there. It means that I lack the training still. I lack the understanding. So we're going to be taking a lot of responsibility for teaching that because we live in a society where it's like me. I want this, I need that. What about my problems? And here's what I want to end on tonight, guys. And this is not a law of wealth necessarily, the one I'm about to share with you. This is just my observation on life. It's a law of energy, if you want to call it that. When you focus on other people's problems instead of your own, yours tend to go away. When you focus on helping with bigger problems than just your own problems, your problems tend to go away. And what also happens is there's a really wise guy named Zig Ziglar, guy I listened to growing up a lot. He has a quote that says, if you can just help enough other people get what they want in life, you'll end up with everything you want. So imagine in the philanthro world that we're creating, if your sole focus is building wealth by restoring life essentials and promoting human welfare, how many other people are you helping get what they want? And I'm not talking about, oh, this person wants a new car. I'm talking about people that are like, dude, I want clean water. I want fish without plastic in them, right? I want to be able to have a house over my family's head. Like, these are real essentials of life. When you furnish those for people, you deliver them because those are wanted and needed at the highest level by all people, regardless of skin color, race, country, language, it doesn't matter. When you deliver on those things, you will always have a way to prosper. When you promote human welfare, like, I want people to be better instead of, imagine if the politicians got up there and instead of making each other wrong and being immature little children, they actually like thought of solutions to help people. Instead of, this is why this person's bad, and here's why that person's bad, and here's why what they're saying isn't true, and here's why what they're saying isn't true. It's literally like watching my siblings fight, right? And we have some of the brightest minds in this country that could get up there and say, hey, regardless of who wins, let's solve the water problem. I would be way more engaged in it. I don't know about you, but I would actually care. I would actually watch it and be like, wow, this is some good stuff. Right? There aren't enough people out there promoting human welfare, the well-being of those around us. We share this planet together. Borders are invisible. They're made up. They're invisible lines. I'm not telling you there should be no borders, but I'm saying someone that lives on that side of the line has the same body as you. They breathe the same air as you. They live on the same planet as you. They feel the same feelings as you. And so wealth should be something that promotes their welfare, because their welfare is my welfare. But at the end of the day, I'm Scrooge McDuck and I've got my billions racked up and I've got a planet that's decaying and falling apart, people that are at war and hate each other, and poverty around everyone but just me. I'm not going to be happy. Right? Because here's the other thing that happens is when you become financially independent, when you become wealthy, you're going to want other people to bring it with you, to enjoy it with. Okay, there's a guy that I follow quite a bit. His name's Tom. He goes on these crazy trips with people. His friends, his family, his employees. He'll drop $500,000, invite, the 30 or 40 people he loves the most in life to come with him, and they'll go to Europe and just party and have fun for a week. And it's on Tom, right? So he's promoting human welfare by doing that, isn't he? See, this can look however you want it to look. And that's the point I want to get across, guys, as I wrap this up this evening, is I want you to think about not just what does wealth mean to you personally, not just what does wealth mean for you and your family, but what are the things that you look at on this planet that bother you? And what I'm going to say next, and then I'm going to end this, might sting a little bit. The reason you look at something and it bothers you is because you know you should be doing something about it and you're not. Okay, that's your conviction. I'm going to say that again. The reason you might look at something, a situation on this planet with, the life essentials or nature or other people on this planet and look at it and say, that situation bothers me. Certain things we look at it and they just eat us up, right? The reason we feel that is because we know we could be doing something about it and we're not. One of the reasons we're not is we've been taught the game is just work for your paycheck and mind your own business and save up your money and make sure you give it all to Wall Street and all to the banks and wait till you're 65 because you don't want to touch it until then. Guys, the problems, think about how bad it is today. How bad it is today. And if you wait till you're 65, you give up control of all your money, you give it to Wall Street and financial institutions and banks till you're 65 years old. How bad are those problems going to be 4 decades from now? 3 decades, 2 decades, even a decade. If we don't do something about them today, right, we're going to lose the chance to do it. And that's one of the things I want to push with you as you're watching this training, whether you're live, watching the replay. Okay, so guys, I'm going to wrap this up here. What I do want to do is I want to give you a free gift for tuning in here. So if you are watching right now, I would like to give you a free copy of my book. It's called The Blueprint to Financial Freedom. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and share my screen really quick. And if you're watching this, you can scan the QR code. Okay, it's right here on the screen. You can also go to jerryfetta.com/B2F promo. Now I'm going to make something very, 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 very clear. I've been doing this for almost 15 years, helping people build greater financial freedom, helping people earn a passive income, get out of debt, become their own bankers, all of this stuff. I am to the point, and it's funny because I'm 32 years old as I say this, but I've been doing this since I was 18. You've got to realize this. I am to the point that I have zero interest in helping you become financially independent just for you. Right? So if I'm going to teach you how to build financial independence, I expect you to pay it forward. That's our deal. If I'm going to help you, you need to help other people. You need to help the world around you. We're not doing this so you can just go play golf every day. I want you to understand that. So if you get the book, you read the book, I want you to be thinking about that. And it doesn't mean don't enjoy your money. It doesn't mean that at all. Definitely do. I travel, I do all this stuff, but I also donate every month. I also invest in things that are philanthro investments. They're life essentials. So I want to help you be in a position of power so that you use that power for the right things. Okay, so if you don't have the book, scan the QR code. You can go to jerryfetta.com/B2F promo. We will be back again next Friday night, same time, 8:30 p.m. Central Time for Finance Friday. That's all for tonight. Like, share, subscribe. I would love to hear your comments.